Okay. I'm sharing my screen. Once it is visible, just say yes in chat box so that we can start our class. Okay. So, hope my screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So yesterday we started with IS 101, and initially I have explained the syllabus of the, I mean, this specific. Sorry. So initially we started uh, discussing the entire course syllabus. Then following we started with IS 101. Then we talked about management. It is basically a coordination of all resources through proper planning, organizing, directing, and controlling functions. Then we also discussed the characteristics of management. It's like it is a group function or it is an executive function. It is dynamic in nature, and also it's a leadership, and also it is a decision-making activity, and also it is a continuous process. These are the various characteristics of management. Then we talk about the different elements of management functions, where the management majorly focus on. So they focus on defining the objectives and planning, organizing with the coordinators or resources, and also defining specific responsibilities. And also they direct and coordinate with all the efforts of the members within the organization. And they do put certain controlling steps within the processes. Then they'll be motivating the members to cooperate with each other for the achievement of the objectives, and also uh, innovating to improve the objectives for the future. And also they look for the innovative ideas or the innovative technologies they bring in to improve the future objectives or the future goals of the organization. Then we talked about where the top management and the middle management, the supervisory management focus on the major key activities, like the top management, middle management majorly focus on planning, organizing, and staffing, and the supervisory management where they majorly focus on directing and controlling activity. Then we discussed the Henry Fayol's 14 principles of management. So in the sense, Henry Fayol is an author or a management specialist. So he listed 14 principles the management should have or the management should follow. So basically, division of work. Basically, it talks about one person should have only one activity, an authority and responsibility, discipline, unity of command. In the sense, only one person can give instruction to a set of people or a group of people, and the unity of direction. Only one person can give the direction in part of the objectives or plans or activities. Then subordination of individual to a general interest, where it talks about the personal interest of the management or personal interest of the person. It should be sacrificed in the case of any conflict comes with the management interest. In the sense, because the management is the ultimate body or where a firm where they will give salaries to the employees. So ultimately, we have to sacrifice our goals in the case of any conflict with the management goals. Okay. Then we talked about remuneration of the persons, like fair wages. Then we talked about centralization. Then we talked about scalar chain, how the information flows, and also covered the role of managerial roles, in the sense what are the various roles a managerial person perform in the organizations. Sometimes he act as a figurehead where he used to coordinate with the visitors, and sometimes he act as a leader, take the responsible for work unity and hiring, firing, etc. And sometimes he act as a listening person where he maintains a good relations, okay, in favors with the organization, and also do the proper follow-ups and also information. Then he also act as informative role where he monitor the activities and the information, and also act as a disseminator, in the sense basically he will pass the information, and also a spokesperson. Sometimes he will also act as a spokesperson where you nominate or where you represent your organization. Sometimes our safety manager goes for representation of the organization where he will be act as a spokesperson. Then decision role. So this is also decision role where he will act as a entrepreneur. I think yesterday still we covered this slide number 10. We can start from here. Okay, fine. So a decision or a decisional role where a managerial person used to take. One is entrepreneur. Moreover, it is an improver of work unit. Example, looks out the few new ideas and also develops the new programs. So basically, he will act as an entrepreneur also, where he give suggestions to the management. Sometimes the management itself, they will come up with the new ideas where they can improve their productions, or they can develop the new products or new technology. Then disturbance handler. So this is also one of the role. So disturbance handler is nothing but solving the issues, any employee strikes. So in the case of the conflict between worker and the management, in case ఏమన్నా ఆర్గనైజేషన్ లో ఏదైనా గొడవలు జరిగితే, ఓకే, ఎమర్జెన్సీ హ్యాండ్లింగ్ కానీ లేదంటే సప్లై చైన్ ఫెయిలియర్. So when you say disturbance, whatever it is, either in the production, between the people, or between the organizations, like where a supplier used to supply material but he is not supplying on time, then that is also a part of disturbance handler. Okay. Then he also acts as a resource allocator. So the managers or the management, where they allocate the resources of men, money, materials, market, and machines. So as we know, the management definitely supply all this. So without a man, a machine, a material, or methods, so you will not able to produce the goods. అంటే మనుషులు, మిషన్స్, అంటే వాళ్ళు ఏం చేయాలన్నది పద్ధతులు తెలియకుండా మనము ఎటువంటి ప్రొడక్షన్ యాక్టివిటీ అనేది జరపలేదు. సో డెఫినెట్లీ ద మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఆర్ మేనేజర్ ట్రై టు గివ్ us the resources. Then negotiator, okay, where he represents the management in the settlements. So sometimes the managers be in between the top management and the workers. In the case of any incident happen, they'll come for a settlement where he will act as a negotiator between the top management and the workers, or sometimes workers union also. ఓకే, ఇందులో ఏంటంటే ఇది డెసిషనల్ రోల్స్. ఒకసారి ఆయన ఎంటర్ప్రినర్గా కూడా థింక్ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. సో సమ్ టైమ్స్ వాళ్ళు డిస్టర్బెన్స్ హ్యాండ్లర్, ఏమన్నా ఇష్యూస్ వచ్చినా కూడా వాటిని క్లియర్ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. తర్వాత రిసోర్స్ అలొకేట్ అంటే కంపెనీకి సంబంధించిన రిసోర్సెస్, మ్యాన్ కానీ, మిషన్ కానీ, మెటీరియల్ కానీ, టెక్నాలజీని కానీ వాళ్ళు అలొకేట్ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. తర్వాత నెగోషియేటర్, ఇన్ ది కేస్ ఆఫ్ ఎనీ ఇష్యూ హ్యాపెన్స్ బిట్వీన్ వర్కర్స్ అండ్ ద మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఆర్ supplier from the management, he will also act as a negotiator, like a middleman between the top management and the other party. Okay. Then we jump into other topic, which is authority, where we have seen or we touched upon high level. Okay, so when you talk about authority, means a legal or delegate power or a right to a person. For example, a safety officer has authority to design and sign a safety work permit, or to sign a purchase order of a safety equipment. So basically, sometimes it may be in the form of a written, a document form. Sometimes it may not be. Okay, a oral decision also can be come under this. Okay, so when you talk about authority, authority can be delegated also. It is a decentralization of power downwards. A safety officer can delegate his authority to permit some work to the safety supervisor. So basically what happens is authority can be delegated. So where you can't delegate the responsibility. We'll see in the coming slides where we talk about the authority also. Okay. So here's an Henry Fayol, I mean, one of the, again, a management author. So authority is the right to give orders and the power to accept obedience. So it is basically, when you talk about authority, they have a right to give orders. Okay. So when you talk about the characteristics of the authority, it is basically is used to achieve the organizational goals. For example, some of them, they have an authority, they can't use that authority to get their personal goals. Basically, it is supposed to be used for to achieve the organizational goals. Okay. సో అథారిటీ ఎప్పుడు యూజ్ చేస్తాం మనము? ఎప్పుడైనా ఆర్గనైజేషన్ గోల్స్ని అచీవ్ చేయడానికి యూజ్ చేస్తాం. అథారిటీని మనం వేరే వాళ్ళకి డెలిగేట్ చేయొచ్చు. అంటే మన కింద ఉన్న సబార్డినేట్స్కి మాత్రమే మనం అథారిటీని డెలిగేట్ చేయగలం. ఓకే, మన పైన ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి మనం అథారిటీని డెలిగేట్ చేయలేము. ఓకే, బికాస్ దే ఆర్ our bosses, right? You can't give some work to your boss. Your boss can give you a piece of work of his or of his own work. He can give it to you, but you can't give your work to the manager. Okay, so basically authority flows in a downward direction. For example, if you see here, authority, it flows in a downward direction. You can give it to your subordinates. Okay, so it is a key managerial function. So when we say it is the one of the a key managerial function, because every manager is stuck or busy with so many things. To handle such cases, the managers can delegate some of their works to their subordinates, so that what will happen, they can able to focus on high payoff activities or high importance activities. For example, a manager is always uh, going to the shop front, filling the checklist, or he is doing inspections, because that is not his area of focus. Because he has to work on, look for what kind of safety systems we can bring in. He has to look for any legal non-compliance, or he has to look for writing of best safety procedures or reviewing of procedures or hero documents. That is not his right job to do inspection. Definitely he has to do, but others also can be done because it is a checklist. So the checklist is a ready reference where the people can do the inspection. Okay. Then it gives a right of decision making and also get the decision carried out. So basically, authority gives a right to take the decisions, and also it makes or gets the decision to carried out. అంటే ఇది డెసిషన్ తీసుకోవడానికి పనికొస్తుంది. దాంతో పాటుగా ఇట్ ఆల్సో మేక్ షూర్ దట్ ఏదైతే డెసిషన్ తీసుకున్నారో ఆ డెసిషన్ ని ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేసేదానికి కూడా ఇది పనికొస్తుంది. దెన్ it can be delegated. It means you can delegate to your subordinates. అంటే నీ దగ్గర ఉన్న పవర్స్ ని, నీ దగ్గర ఉన్న అథారిటీని నువ్వు వేరే వాళ్ళకి డెలిగేట్ చేయొచ్చు. ఎవరికి? యూ కెన్ డెలిగేట్ ఓన్లీ టు యువర్ సబార్డినేట్స్. అంటే నీకంటే కింది స్థాయిలో ఉన్న వ్యక్తులకు మాత్రమే యూ కెన్ డెలిగేట్. సో బేసికలీ యూ కెన్ డెలిగేట్ ఓన్లీ టు యువర్ సబార్డినేట్స్, నాట్ టు యువర్ superiors. Okay. Next one. Now we'll see what is meant by responsibility, that is about authority. So when you talk about the responsibility, so again, Dalton McFarland, he mentioned that responsibility is the duties and activities assigned to a position or to an executive. So basically, it is nothing but it is a set of activities where they have performed, or set of activities where they have allocated to a person where he has to perform the activity. It means it is nothing but roles and responsibilities. So when you talk about the main characteristics of responsibilities, it cannot exist without authority or vice versa. So as we've seen yesterday, so authority and responsibility has to go in hand. So when you have an authority, so you will automatically get the responsibility, right? It has to go in hand. So it originates from a superior subordinate relationship. So basically, it comes from your manager and the subordinate relationship, and it is absolute and cannot be delegated. The authority can be delegated. So responsibility you can't delegate to your subordinates. For example, there is a chemical unloading activity is happening. So you asked your subordinate to monitor that unloading activity. So unfortunately, there is an incident happened, a spillage happened, okay, while unloading the chemicals. Then who is responsible for that? Ultimately, you are responsible for that. You can't escape from that responsibility. Okay, you are going to be answerable for that spillage. That is what it is talking about. Okay. Then he who holds accept responsibility is accountable to his superior. So, for example, you're having your responsibility, so you will be accountable to your supervisor because he will monitor your roles and responsibilities. So you are going to be accountable in the sense you are going to be answerable to your manager. Okay, about your day-to-day activities. When I talk about roles and responsibilities, it is nothing but the day-to-day activities used to perform. And then you gave the responsibilities in there. Ultimately, you are accountable to your supervisor. అంటే ఏంటంటే నేను ఈ రోజంతా ఈ యాక్టివిటీస్ చేశాను, ఈ పనులు చేశాను అని చెప్పేసి మనము ఇన్ఫార్మ్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం. ఓకే. Then next one, it is an obligation of a subordinate to perform the duty assigned to him. When you say obligation, it is nothing but the requirement or necessarily they have to do. So when you talk about the subordinate, whatever the activities which are assigned to a particular person or a subordinate, the subordinate has to execute or must and should follow the duties without a fail. Okay. And it is a derivative of authority. It is nothing but another form of an authority. It flows upward while authority flows downward. So your responsibilities will increase when you get the promotion, right? So you're not depromoted. So when you start the career with a safety officer, slowly you start getting engineer or executive, assistant manager or deputy manager or manager. So automatically your area of responsibilities will increase. So when you talk about authority, it flows downwards. అంటే ఏంటంటే నీ కింద ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి నువ్వు నీ దగ్గర ఉన్న వర్క్ లో కొంత, నీ దగ్గర ఉన్న పవర్స్ లో కొన్ని పవర్స్ వాళ్ళకి ఇస్తూ ఉంటారు. సో authority always go downwards or flows downwards. Responsibility flows always upwards. Accountability arises out of responsibility and they go together. Authority gives responsibility, which in turn creates accountability. So basically, when you are saying accountability rises out of responsibility, in the sense, whatever the roles and responsibilities are defined to your role, from that the accountability comes in. Okay. For example, your role is to do a toolbox talk every day. In any one specific day, you are not done the toolbox talk. So for that, you are going to be accountable, in the sense you are going to be answerable. So why you have not performed the toolbox talk today? Okay, that is what about accountability rises out of responsibility, and they go together always. Yes, it has to go together. And authority gives responsibility, which in turn creates the accountability. So basically, when you are having authority, automatically you will get the responsibilities. Okay, you are a safety manager. What is your, when you become a safety manager, so without a second thought, so you'll be informed, or you have to make sure that all the safety and also environmental complaints are 100%. If it is not happening like that, so you will be responsible for that. Okay. So it will be confusing. Don't get worried. If you read 1 or 2 times, you will understand. Then other one, power. So basically power means the ability or capacity to do something, to act, to control, to exercise force or command, etc. And power also comes with authority, because authority gives right and the right gives power. So when you have an authority, automatically you will have a right. It means హక్కులు. సో నీకు ఎప్పుడైతే అథారిటీ ఉందో నీకు ఒక హక్కు అనేది ఉంటుంది. సో నీకు హక్కులు ఉన్నప్పుడు ఆటోమేటికల్లీ you will get the power. Okay. Now we'll see the basic difference of the authority and power. So when I talk about authority and power, it is basically right to do or command. Okay, and power means ability to do or command. Here they have a right. Okay, here they have ability or they have skill to perform. Okay, then derived from a position in organization or institution. So it is derived from a position. So position in the sense in the organization structure, based on your position, you will get the authority. For example, for assistant manager, you'll have certain set of authority. When you see a senior manager, he will have a set of authorities. Okay, like the way. But the power is derived from many sources like authority, seniority, knowledge, and competence. Okay. Then flows downward can be delegated. So as I mentioned, the authority always flows downwards. Then power flows in all directions and cannot be delegated. So you can't delegate the power. Okay. Then legitimate resides in the position. So basically, it's always be with the position. Based on the position of an employee in the organization, it always resides with the position, and maybe illegitimate, extra constitutional or assumed. So simply ఏంటంటే అథారిటీ అనేది వాళ్ళ యొక్క పొజిషన్ బట్టి అది ఆ పొజిషన్ తో పాటు ఉంటుంది. పవర్ అనేది అలా కాదు. సో ఇట్ వి హ్యావ్ అదర్ aspects as well. Then 5, increase as one goes up in hierarchy. So in the sense, the authority increases whenever an employee, a person, goes from one position to other position. Okay. Whenever he goes up in a hierarchy, in the sense AM to manager, manager to senior manager, from senior manager to general manager, automatically the authority increases. And when we talk about power, may or may not accompany increases in authority. It is not always a chance of or guarantee that the power also will increase. And right to allocate resources. So when you have authority, so where you will have a right to give resources, like giving extra manpower or giving extra budget for the methods or bringing the new technology. So where the power is ability to control the resources. So here, whatever the resources are given, the power will control. So whether those resources are properly using or not. Okay. Then the authority is visible from the organization chart. It is institutionalized power. So basically, when you talk about authority, it is clearly seen in the organization chart where you are positioned. So accordingly, we can see the authorities of a particular person is holding. And when you talk about power, again, it is not visible from the organization chart. We can't see any the powers of people by looking the any organization charts. Okay, that is about authority and power. But ultimately, as we seen, power also comes with authority because authority gives right and power gives right gives power to execute. Then we talk about span of management. It is also a very interesting and important topic. So when talk about span, the span of management refers to the basically a number of subordinates a manager or a supervisor can supervise effectively because of his limitation of time, capacity, ability, and also and the nature of work and pressure of work, etc. And no a single individual can effectively supervise unlimited number of subordinates. And the term span of management or span of control, span of supervision, span of authority are used interchangeably in the management literatures. So when you say span of management or span of control or span of supervision or span of authority, all these are used interchangeably. Okay, in the management literature, some areas they write span of control, in some areas they write as span of supervision, in some areas they write as span of authority. Okay, so basically it talks about the ability of the person where he can handle a number of people. Means how many people can be handled by one manager. Okay, or a supervisor. Now we'll see different spans. So here we have two spans. One is narrow or tall structure. Here the span is 2 and the levels are 4. So when you see levels, there are L1, L2, L3 and L4. And in the each level where they supposed to handle only 2 people. అంటే ఒక్కొక్క లెవెల్లో వాళ్ళు హ్యాండిల్ చేయాల్సింది ఇద్దరిని. సో స్పాన్ ఆఫ్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ అంటే ఒక మనిషి ఎంతమందిని ఎఫెక్టివ్గా మానిటర్ చేయగలరు, అంటే తన పని తను చేసుకుంటూ ఎంతమందిని ఎఫెక్టివ్గా సూపర్వైజ్ చేయగలడు, ఎంతమందిని ఎఫెక్టివ్గా మేనేజ్ చేయగలడు. సో వెన్ యు సే మేనేజ్, సో ఇట్ కమ్స్ విత్ assigning the tasks and also getting the tasks done from the people. Okay, and also it talks about the supervision as well. Okay, so here we have two types of spans, like narrow or tall or wide or flat. So in this narrow, where you have the number of levels are more, so where you have L1, he used to handle 2 people. Then under L2, so again they have 2 people. Under L3 they have 2 people. For example, if I say a senior manager, where he handles 2 managers, where a manager can handle 2 assistant managers, and a assistant manager handle 2 engineers, and a engineer handles 2 safety supervisors. That is how it works. Basically, here it is to span of management. For example, if a safety supervisor has to become a senior manager, here the competition is more. He has to go to 4 levels. Then only he can able to get into a senior manager level. In the other area where the wide or flat structure, where the span is 4 and the levels are 2. So when you talk about the span here, one person is handling 4 people or 4 subordinates. So again, his subordinate is handling another 4 people. So it is basically a wide structure. So because of this wide structure, where the number of levels are high. So if at all you want to become L1, so you just cross 2 positions so that he will become L1 or a manager level. Okay. So span of management ante how effectively, based on his limitation of time, capacity and ability, how many persons can be handled by one supervisor, or a supervisor can manage the workers. Okay. Now we'll see the basic differences between this tall and flat structures, or also called as narrow and wide structures. So when I talk about tall structure, where you have centralization and a close control, because of the under each person they have assigned only 2, so that where you can effectively handle or effectively supervise or effectively control that 2 people. Here, decentralization and loose control. So here the authority is given to the subordinates, where you have given the decentralization or more number of people have been assigned here. Then in the tall structure, better coordination due to interlocking network, difficulty in coordination. Where we can coordinate in the tall structure because of less number of people, and the number of the links are more. For example, you can effectively handle these 2, so they can immediately inform these 2. So the linking is so close. Same way here also, difficulty in coordination because the number of people are more in the wide structure. Okay. Then less mistakes due to close supervision and more mistakes due to loose supervision. So in the tall structure, there is a greater chance of to have mistakes, but in the wide structure, there is a major chance of mistakes.